You know, the biggest lie I feel like I would have told myself when I was much more younger is I think I'll start when I'm ready. And I feel like that would have killed my dreams more than failure will ever. Now, so one thing is about creating and also, starting up is really just starting. And I'm sure that that's everything everybody keeps telling you, oh, just starts, just starts. But I'm going to be here, as a living proof that starting from anything and anywhere is just really what matters. So, at the age of 14, I didn't start up as a director. I started up making shoes and bags. And I'm sure you'll look at it and you'd be like, shoes and bags, girl. What's this lady saying? But someone gave me that opportunity to learn that skill. And I grabbed that because I myself, Pink, I consider myself a go getter. I'm a film director. Yes, I'm an entrepreneur. But there is one thing I would coin myself. Sometimes I'll prefer to say I'm an opportunist, but I don't think that's the right word to use. So I would say I'm a go getter. Anything I want, I always go for it. So, fast forward to while making these shoes and making bags, I was able to, sell most of these bags and shoes to people like my neighbors, my friends. And that was where I learned one rule of business that your customers can literally be people who are around you. Now, I've taken that what knowledge, right? Good. After secondary school, I then moved into graphics designing. I was in the university, I was in my first year, and I really didn't have enough funds. Like my parents weren't really giving me. How many people used to really collect pocket money here? Do we used to collect all of us? Rich kids. So I really didn't have that luxury, and I knew that I needed to do something for myself. I had that very small techno cracked. It was a very phone that used to hang. You know how Android that year used to hang. And thankful for Canva, I just decided to like, okay, you know what? I have my phone, so let me actually just start designing. That was when I started doing graphics design. Now, while doing graphics design, I was able to gain lots. I started doing it for free. Like, trust me, my designs were actually crappy. Imagine if I had started and I was like, this graphics, maybe I'll just wait till I really learn it. I didn't learn. Like, I didn't even know the laws of design, I didn't know the laws of colors. But I did what? I started anyway. And I learned from there, you know. I got a lot of clients, I got a lot of customers from just having the, offering to really design. Fine, now make I design your graphic, make I design your music cover now, things like that. Because obviously I didn't have a portfolio, so I really wanted to make one. Now, mind you, I didn't really have a manual to life. I didn't know what I was doing, but all I know is that I was moving. Now, I'm a graphics designer. I moved into animation. And guess what? While in the university, I was studying economics. You start to wonder, how am I really combining all this? Somebody asked me at the back there when they were doing question session, he was like, you're so young. Oh my God, that how were you able to do all this? And I was like, does anybody know what FOS is? Nobody want to try and ask chat? No? Well, I call it the fear of Sakpa. Yeah, I don't want to go broke. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be any none of that. I want to be what? Rich for life. Thank you. And the moment you stop is the moment you what? Start getting poor. Do you understand? The moment you stop getting rich, you start getting poor. I used to get that into your head. So let me not digress to my story. So yeah, I'm an economist now. I'm a graphics designer. I'm also into animation. With that, from graphics designing, even from my phone, I was then able to save up money and I got a laptop. Now that laptop was what I then used to start up my animation journey. From there, bit by bit, I was able to gather and get a camera for myself. I didn't know what I was going to shoot. I just feel like life just kept moving and I just kept flowing. I just kept moving with the flow. I was still good at my studies. I didn't just dump my studies and be like, nah. You're in school right now and you have so much time in your hands. It kind of feels like, oh my God, I have this, I have that. But then when you really pattern your timing well, you realize how much time you could actually be doing so many more productive things. So right after that, right after graphics design, like I said, animation, I started then coaching myself. I looked at, I went on Instagram, I put social media to good use. Who are people that are really in this field? Mind you, please, when I bought that camera, I did not go and DM Davido that please, I want to shoot your video. I didn't DM Tiwa Savage because that's like some of you people start from like you want to fly. No, I actually moved around people around my field that were like directors, there were colorists, editors, and all that. And I approached myself that, oh, this is what I do. They said, okay, no problem, come in. I then came in. I started doing behind the scenes. I was doing PA. A lot of times they didn't really pay me, right? In between that, I started working in a radio station. I was working for a Teens Time on Inspiration FM. And it still wasn't a paid gig. But from there, I was really to link up with, really grow my networking. So a lot of times you should really see what value does this particular work or stuff that I'm doing, what does it give me? It might not be monetary, but it might actually grow my social what? My social network. It might grow like my links. Like, it might actually foster some type of relationships that I would need in future. And that's one thing about not just being a creative. That's one thing about not just even being, whatever you are in your field. It's also about being business inclined. Because no matter what, even if you're a civil servant, I still feel like you should really have that what business, I call it business akonuchi. Now, where did I stop in my story? So from while being on set and behind the scenes and all that, guess what? I got a random call one day, and where I was literally sitting down in my makeshift workstation right back at home. That was after COVID. I got a call. Yo, can you direct a video? Clarice Peters wants you to direct a video. I'm like, what? Me? Guess what? I have not directed any video before. I've shot most whack videos, like, as an indie filmmaker. But guess what? I said yes because, my dear, I'm a hustler. I'm a go-getter. And what? I have what? The extreme fear of Sakba. Thank you. And I said yes. And then I decided to what? Figure that out later on what? How am I going to actually start? Okay, so what's the idea? They said I should do the idea. Yeah. So, I just went with it anyway. I went to YouTube. I went to so many places. I was just gathering information because trust me, if you want, I believe that if you want to be an astronaut today, you can because there's so many information out there, and you only just have to seek it. They say when you want to hide information from a black man, you put it what in the books. They ain't gonna read that, and that's why a lot of times, we're always the ignorant ones, as Africans. But it's really good to see that we Gen Zs, we're really changing the narrative and we're really changing the story because right now, information is not even just only in books, it's also on your social media, it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, it's so many places. You only just have to do what? Open up that search bar and search for it. So I got those information. I was able to direct my very first video. And from there, it was just, moving. I just kept moving. I never for once said, you know what, I want to stop or I want to relax. Now, fast forward to years later, I shot videos across multiple countries, the US, UK, Senegal, even African countries, I can't even count. And you would think that, this girl, I think it's time to rest. No, no, FOS, no, I'm not gonna stop. You know, I then decided that, I think this filmmaking, being a filmmaker, being a creative has really impacted my life. And then I decided to start my own academy, the Incline Academy. And when I started, it was like, how are you even going to start this thing? Where are you going to start from? But I started anyway. I put out an announcement. And from there, it had like the very first cohort had, I think, 30 students. The second cohort had, that was 80. And now the 80 students, I started noticing that some people were coming from Ghana, Liberia, all those kind of places. Ah, as I say, in the next cohort, the third one had over 250 students. Landmark was really willing to partner for this particular cohort. Now, students are not just coming from Africa, they are coming from where? Beyond Africa. Now, you're seeing that a shoemaker, right, went from being a shoemaker. How does it even correlate? Like sometimes I go crazy. You go from a shoemaker to being what? A graphics designer, to being an animator, to being a radio presenter, to being what? A behind the scenes videographer, to being an actual director on set, and then owning your academy where you're actually impacting lots of lives. And when I think about it, I'm like, how did I even get myself here? But one thing you need to know is that clarity doesn't come before movement. Clarity comes because of the movement. It is when you move that you then figure out yourself. You don't just wait and be like, I'm waiting for that perfect job. I'm waiting for that perfect. I haven't told you, and this is just what I decide to tell you. I haven't told you the many extra things that I have done aside from all this, but these ones were the most significant, in my life. So imagine doing so many different things and then coming to find myself as what? As this particular person, a filmmaker, an entrepreneur. And no, I don't just have academy. I also have a production company. And I still keep moving. This is not the end for me. So you guys should just see me as yourself. Like, I'm trying to, express myself in my craft, find myself, right? We are all still figuring out ourselves. But the difference between anybody just figuring out themselves and people who then decide to what? Start. You're way different. So you don't have to be the best at it before you start. You only just need to start. Thank you so much.